Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Happy spring. This is Scott Silverman, co-founder of CommerceNext. We are a community event series and conference for marketers at retail and DTC brands. On behalf of my co-founders, Veronica Sonsev and Alan Dick, I'd like to welcome you to our weekly webinar. Today, we will be talking about building loyalty with newly acquired customers. Developing new e-commerce customers acquired during the pandemic is one of the hottest topics in e-commerce right now. So I'm really excited that we have a chance to dive into it today. We will, as we always are, taking questions from everyone in the audience. So feel free to load those up during the presentation. And thank you all for tuning in, making time to join live or listen to the replay. So I want to start with a couple important thank yous. First, a huge thank you to our speakers today, Jeff Gerstel, CMO of B&H, Sherri, head of growth at Italic, Matt Hayes, co-founder of the Fascination, and Brandon Gell, CEO of Clyde. We recognize how busy all of you are, and we want to thank you for taking time to share your insights with the community. As a small thanks, you'll be getting a gift from our gifting partner, Gift Now. And also 5 lucky attendees will also be getting a gift from Gift Now as well that we will randomly draw. Unfortunately, that is only open to the live listeners. And I want to give a big thank you to Clyde, our sponsor for today's webinar. We could not bring all of these weekly webinars to our audience and all of these insights without the support of our sponsors. And as you'll hear from Brandon in a bit, Clyde is really focusing on helping retailers and brands break through and connect with customers and deliver better customer service. So before we begin, a couple important announcements and housekeeping notes. First is the agenda. So we will kick off with a presentation from Brandon called Touchpoint Trojan Horse. As we usually do, we want to hear from you, and we'll be doing some audience poll questions. And then the meat of our webinar is our panel discussion with our different panelists. So looking forward to that. So a couple things we have coming up that I wanted to mention. Next week, we continue our webinars, and we have a session on how to create digital store experiences that are as good as in-store experiences. That is going to be hosted by Vertebrae. We also will have the CEO of Beta Brand and the Chief Design Officer at Moscot. And then that'll be moderated by my fellow co-founder, Veronica Sonsev. Then we have coming up on May 5th is our next big summit. This is focused on back to school. We know May doesn't feel like back to school, but we know a lot of retailers are planning for it. We have a whole afternoon of sessions and keynotes and panels. There'll be one-on-one networking and a number of fun surprises. So registration's now open. You can see that bit.ly link if you'd like to go. Check out the site and get registered for that. And we look forward to seeing you on May 5th, which is a Wednesday. And we always direct people to our YouTube channel. So we compile all of our webinars, all of our content from past summits. We have a number of speaker interviews. All those can be found on our YouTube channel. I encourage you to do that. And I always give my pro tip is remember, you can watch these at higher speeds and save yourself some time, which I like to do. So as far as housekeeping notes, don't worry if you miss anything. We're recording the webinar and we'll make it available tomorrow afternoon. And I do want to show you a couple things on your screen, which will help you get familiar with how to use the webinar format and make the most of this. So really, I want to focus everybody on the upper right, and that's where you'll see the main features of the interface. Within that is chat, and we encourage folks to share any thoughts, any insights that you are just too excited, can't contain yourself, and want to share that with the audience. We just ask everybody to keep it respectful. And then if you want to ask questions for the speakers, we have this Q&A function. Again, you can find that from the upper right and just type in your answer down on the bottom there. If you see a question that you find really interesting, you can upvote it. That helps us prioritize them, and they kind of bubble to the top. Very importantly, our handout. So a copy of the presentation that Brandon's going to give and a white paper are all in that handout section. And if you're watching the replay, you can access all of this from that bottom right area. So with that, I am now really excited to ask Brandon Gell, the Clyde co-founder, to join our virtual stage. And he's going to talk about the Touchpoint Trojan Horse. And again, after Brandon's presentation, we'll have our panel join us on screen for a broader conversation on this topic. So Brandon, welcome.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Scott. And thanks everyone for coming. We want to get to the panel discussion. So I'm gonna keep this pretty brief, but hopefully it will act as a good way to introduce us to the conversation that we're going to have. So today we're here to talk about building loyalty from newly acquired customers. And Clyde spends a lot of time thinking about this and working on this and building product for this. And we recently released a white paper that we call the Touchpoint Trojan Horse. So we're going to talk just briefly about that to sort of tee up the conversation. But before we get into it, very, very brief intro on Clyde. We are a platform that enables merchants of any scale, from a pre-revenue business to a massive enterprise business, to launch, manage, and find success with extended warranty programs. Our merchants do this for a couple different reasons. They do it because they want to drive high profit revenue starting day one. Clyde is entirely free for you to use. You can drive more sales through your own channels through selling warranties. Consumers are actively looking for this more and more. And you can drive engagement with those customers and improve customer satisfaction long term. We've been doing this for a little over 4 years. We have over 200 merchants on our platform. We work with, again, those merchants that are up and coming D2C brands to merchants that are massive multi-billion-dollar enterprises. The reason that they work with us is we're an extremely product-focused company. We have an 18% attachment rate on average, and our claims process takes less than 2 minutes. It's the warranty experience that everybody wants to have, but no one has had yet. And we're really proud of the product that we've built around this. So enough about Clyde. Let's talk about the Touchpoint Trojan Horse. So I don't think I need to explain this to really anybody on this call, since we're all both people that work at brands, but we're also consumers. And we receive an unbelievable amount of emails between our work email and our personal emails. It's increasing seemingly day over day. And the majority of those emails are emails that we really don't care about. Over 100 million emails, for example, get blocked by Gmail every day. They don't even get received. Over 50% of emails of users are reporting that spam is a serious problem. So, our goal is to build lifetime value, to increase lifetime value and build loyalty with customers. And over email, that's seemingly becoming harder and harder to do. And this is a graph that I'm sure everybody on this call can align themselves with, but we always need to be aware as brand marketers of what our CAC is of acquiring a customer. And from 5 years ago to today, our CAC across the board has increased drastically. Emailing is a really tough way to decrease CAC, as you have to send a lot of emails. Promotions don't really seem to work as well as they used to. How do you actually engage a customer in a way that doesn't require you to spend an incredible amount of money? That's what we're here to figure out. And a little bit of context on how this has changed over time. In 2005, the average customer interacted with 2 touch points before buying an item. That sounds really great, but in reality today, before you end up buying a product, an average consumer has been touched by that brand between 5 and 20 times. So that is a lot of content that needs to be built, and obviously this is why CAC is increasing drastically. So what is the Touchpoint Trojan Horse? How can you actually engage a customer in a way that doesn't actually increase CAC over time and actually encourages them to act on whatever you want them to act on? And the way to do that, Clyde has found, is with transactional emails. So transactional emails are opened significantly more often than a marketing email. And transactional email means that it's specific to something, to an engagement, or it's something that is actually time bound. And it's just a fantastic way to engage customers. It's also one of the reasons why something like text is actually rising so much in terms of how we actually interact with consumers. So at Clyde specifically, our partners report over a 78% attachment rate when an email subject line is specific to protection plans. That is an example of a time-bound transactional email. It's a fantastic way to actually get a customer to not just engage with the ability to purchase a warranty, but actually get them to come back to your site and make another purchase. So once you have a customer's attention, what do you do next? So you can use it as an opportunity to offer a complimentary product. We see this as something that actually works really well and is becoming more and more of a thing. You can ask for valuable feedback. Customers want this. They want to be engaged with the brand and have it see it improve over time. You can offer them exclusive access to new products and services. You can share reviews on additional products. That's another great way to actually have them come back to your site to make another purchase. And then, of course, you can give them the option to add product protection. So hopefully that was a decent way to sort of kick us off for this conversation. If anybody ever wants to talk about warranties, feel free to email me at brandon@joinclyde.com or just go to our website and reach out directly there. But I think it's time to get to the meat of this. So Scott, I'm going to hand it back off to you.
All right. So thank you, Brandon, for teeing that up. We are going to ask a few polling questions to kind of see where our audience is, some of the things that they're thinking about. And so the first question is, how has your investment in customer insights changed in the past year? Scaling from much higher to much lower, or about the same, or somewhere in the middle of those. So let's see what our audience is saying. All right, in terms of investment in customer insights, what we're seeing is that majority of folks are saying somewhat higher, about 50%. The next is about the same, and around 20% are much higher. And that seems to be everyone is investing more in customer insights, which seems to be a very hot topic right now. All right, so on to the next question. How would you grade your ability to leverage all available customer touch points to increase sales and engagement? And the key word here is all. So kind of thinking about the whole range of customer touch points. Are you leveraging them all for increasing sales and engagement? And this is on a scale of 10 to 1, 10 being best, 1 being the worst. So it seems like we're a little bit skewed towards on the higher side. 6 seems to be the most frequent answer, around 23%. And then it starts dropping off into 7 and 8. Some folks are not feeling optimistic. We're seeing a few 1, 2, 3s, 4s. And we're not seeing a lot on the very high end. So kind of expected, but the folks are definitely, I think, feeling like you're leveraging most of your touch points. All right, next question. How different are customers acquired during the pandemic compared to existing customers that you were interacting with pre-pandemic? Are they much different? Are they a little different? Or are they about the same? All right, results are coming in. Around 50% of you are saying that these new customers are somewhat different. Around 20% are saying they're much different. And around 25, 27% say they're about the same. So we're certainly seeing that these customers in most cases are different. All right, final question, and this is teeing up our webinar for next Wednesday that's going to be looking at how to make the digital experience as good as the store experience. So as a consumer, and this is not as much about your business, but as a consumer, Have you ever used any of the following immersive e-commerce experiences? And you can select all that apply. Augmented reality, virtual reality, live shopping with video, and video consultations. So it looks like folks on the call are fairly experienced with some of these immersive e-commerce applications, with augmented reality being the top answer, around 35%. Next is virtual reality. And then live shopping with video and video consultations are each around a little more than 20%. So thank you all for participating in our poll. Able to learn a little bit. Some of this we'll be talking about during our panel discussion. So with that, I'd like to bring our panel up, and we can begin having a little bit of a conversation. We can kind of finish up and continue along with some of the things that Brandon was presenting, and then also get into this overall discussion around making these, bringing more loyalty to these newer customers. So I want to get started with some introductions, and I want to ask each of the panelists if they could just describe your brand, your role and background, and then to kind of kick off the conversation, what customer engagement achievement have you made in the past year that you're most proud of? And we'll start with Jeff.
Okay, thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm Jeff Gerstel. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer here at B&H Photo in New York. For those who don't know us, we're a photo, video, consumer electronics retailer, primarily online, with one store here in New York City. Thinking about the achievement for the year, I guess what stands out to me is we had a pretty sizable surge in customers and traffic, like many did. And I think the big accomplishment was the organization rose to the challenge with all the, everything going on with the pandemic and the, personal challenges people had. I think people really came together, and we had a lot of new customers, and we're able to show them what's unique and special about our brand. I mean, our brand is very oriented around kind of an old school service approach that you tend not to find anymore, and that became pretty challenging with everything that's been going on. So I'd say that was the big accomplishment for the year.
All right. I am going to now turn over to Sherri Quo from Italic. If you could introduce yourself and talk about your customer engagement achievement that you're most proud of from the past year.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Sherri. I'm currently the head of growth at Italic, leading our lifecycle paid as well as brand marketing functions. And for those of you who aren't familiar with Italic, Italic is a membership that offers hundreds of quality goods from the same manufacturers as top brands, but at 60 to 80% lower in prices. So we like to think of ourselves as building the modern day everything store, and our products range anywhere from clothing and accessories to home goods across kitchen, bedding, bath, as well as outdoors and fitness. So we're constantly expanding that reach to make us everything. My background prior to Italic started somewhat non-linear. I was a management consultant and then investment banker before taking on marketing roles at Stitch Fix and HelloFresh, as well as some other brands. And my customer engagement achievement, I think for us most recently, would be a new initiative, a membership perk that we launched called Thank You Thursdays. So on select Thursdays, we will now select a best-selling product that Italic offers and make it available to our members at such a low price that we actually take a loss on it. But that is our token of appreciation as a way to give back to our members community, which has been so supportive of us from the beginning. And it's been very well received so far. And we're now seeing that these drops, if you will, are selling out within hours. And so it's just great to see that kind of support from our membership community.
All right. Well, one more day until Thank You Thursday. I love that. And how did, any background story on how that idea came about?
Yeah, so I think that the team had actually been talking about an article they read about Costco rotisserie chickens and how Costco goes to great lengths to keep the price of their rotisserie chickens, which is a best-selling product, at a very low cost to their customers, and people really appreciate that. So we've been on this journey to understand how could we improve our customer experience even beyond just offering low prices, and what's something that our members would really appreciate because they are very value conscious, and everybody loves a fun member exclusive event. And so that morphed into Thank You Thursdays.
Awesome. All right. And last but not least, Matt Hayes, if you could introduce yourself, the Fascination, and again, the customer engagement achievement you're most proud of in the past year.
Cool. Thanks, Scott. Thanks, Brendan, for having me. Hey guys, I'm Matt. I'm one of the co-founders of the Fascination, and what we're doing there is we're building an online marketplace to discover, research, and shop sort of the top emerging direct-to-consumer brands in the space. Forbes actually called us Wirecutter meets Amazon for the direct-to-consumer space. Before launching the Fascination, I was part of the founding team at Lisa, where I ran marketing and e-commerce for several years. I think the thing I'm most proud about with the Fascination, given what we're only 90 days old actually, is really just building the foundation for a very strong two-sided marketplace. We've been able to attract some of the top direct-to-consumer brands in the space and learn about amazing founders that we hadn't heard of ourselves. And so to build a strong consumer base and to build a strong network of brands and bring them together has been a really satisfying achievement in the last 90 days.
All right, great. All right, so want to get into a few more topics. And again, I want to encourage our folks that are listening in, if you have questions, kind of go in that upper right. And if you want to ask those, we will try to get to as many as we can. So consumers reward brands that engage them with, the right, in the right time at the right place, or at the right time and in the right place. And with the opportunity to turn these newly acquired customers into long-term customers, do you all feel like you're better equipped to do this than you were? So certainly nobody was expecting to have a surge in new customers, but that's where we are, and it's created some interesting opportunities. So maybe Sherri, we'll start with you in terms of kind of how you're thinking about these new customers and your preparedness going into it.
Yeah, so we actually launched membership during the pandemic. So our surge in new customers was both, a portion of demand driven by the pandemic, but also our initial foray into a membership model. So I think on our end, we're really focused on proactively trying to engage in the most personalized way, given that we're still learning everything that we want to know about those memberships, and those relationships actually haven't developed for a very long time. I think we're always digital first, and so not having the ability to showcase our physical products for our members, I think has really driven us to think about how do we choose the right timing, and kind of ride this momentum of enthusiasm and engagement we've seen from that surge in demand. And frankly, it's kind of culling out those points of, how do we deliver value, and should we be launching additional perks to really be sensitive to that and continue that engagement enthusiasm.
So Jeff, I wanted to have you address this as well. So I'm sure there are tons of new customers, people like myself that needed a new camera for, for Zooms and things like that. And B&H was able to serve all of those needs, but now you have all these new customers, and how did you kind of approach going into 2021? How are you feeling like you were prepared to focus on customer retention?
I'd say, first of all, I'm glad. Thank you for ordering the camera, and I'm even more so glad that you got it on time, because there are a lot of people last year who didn't. There was incredible scarcity, disappointed customers, and I think what I observed is just a general ratcheting down of the customers' expectations in us to execute. So, I mean, you talk about right time and right place. I almost think about right way, and that to me, with all the touch points that Brandon spoke about, I think about, thank you. I think about things like, the touch point if someone came to our website, was it simple for them to transact or was it complicated? They placed an order. We promised it would deliver by Wednesday. Maybe we can get it to them by Tuesday or Wednesday. And did we meet the promise? And I think in 2020, there are a lot of promises that were made that were not kept by us and by a lot of others. And for me, for 2020, we're in just do what we say. So when the Scott Silvermans of the world come and buy a webcam, if it got to him on time, we've got a chance for him to think of us next time. If it got to him late, it came broken, it didn't work, it's a piece of garbage, the next time he's in the market, he's not going to think about us. So, as much as, we're focused on our emails, on our digital marketing and how we engage with customers, we've really put a premium on just the basic blocking and tackling that almost got lost in this surge. And I know it's probably not the most exciting thing to talk about, but I would gladly take and have taken a chunk of our marketing budget and said, let's do things like Clyde. Let's offer more value to our customers so they think there's something here they're not getting elsewhere. I mean, I love Sherri's, I can't wait Thursday, see what you got for Thank You Thursday, but where are we giving value to people? Not just trying to grab them to come click on our site and disappoint them. So I hope that answers the question, but it's almost like, let's not be too worried about new things. Let's do the things we're supposed to do well, because we really didn't do them that well last year.
And Brandon, you're working with such a large array of different brands. What are some of the things you're seeing with them, leveraging all of these touch points and being in the right place at the right time, or as Jeff was saying, just getting it right?
Yeah, Clyde is in a really interesting position because we're both a part of the evaluation of whether or not you want to purchase something. We're pre-purchase, but also if you do buy Clyde, we're post-purchase. So we've had to be really conscious of that to make sure, with like a changing dynamic in 2020, we weren't getting in anyone's way. But one anecdote and thing that we've really had to deal with is almost every brand that we've worked with, and I think Jeff was kind of just alluding to this, had supply chain problems this year, where your website was maybe a little bit delayed to what the actual delivery really looked like. And something that we had to respond to was actually starting to ingest delivery information at first as a way to make sure that we weren't starting a warranty until the customer actually received the product, because you could have a week to 3 month delays over the past year. But then, in terms of what we're talking about today and with regards to engagement, being able to know that a customer actually received a product and then to be able to engage them to purchase the warranty after the fact. And because we were being a little bit more thoughtful about when to actually reach out to them, instead of just using like a generic time frame where actually we're specific to shipping information, engagement back to merchants increased and engagement with Clyde and actually purchasing Clyde increased. So like, the question is around, it's not just, what are we reaching out about? It's actually like the time frame. I feel like those things are what we found this year is they're equally as important.
I mean, Brandon, you made a great point in your presentation at the beginning about the transactional emails, that people still open them because they think there's something of value in it for them. Where's my order? When will it be here? And I think it's interesting with the warranties and other solutions. How do you deliver value to customers in this email so it's something in it for them? And I think so often we start with, what's in it for us? How do we get them to do an action that we want them to do? And I would suggest we should think about, what can we do for them to make things easier for them, and then they'll reward us.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to dig into, that polling question that we had, which is, how is everybody feeling about their ability to leverage all of the available touch points to them? And it's a interesting question because it's not just about using them and having the same message in each one. Customers are going to respond differently to different messages depending on how it's being delivered and the context in which it's being delivered. And so, I guess I'll let me turn back to you again, Jeff, on kind of how you're thinking about all of these different touch points. If there's any, I think the transactional emails is one opportunity, but are you seeing that there are opportunities to leverage more touch points? Is that something you're focused on?
Well, I don't think we've reached saturation in the touch points we're on. For example, on the digital marketing, whether it's Google, Facebook, or otherwise, last year was a unique situation. A lot of people disappeared from the auctions for a few months, so it was a nice situation that I've never seen before. But this year, now every brand's discovered e-commerce as their salvation. So I think we're going to see the opposite this year. So I think there's going to be just an overwhelming demand for touch points, which is just going to make the oversaturation that Brandon talked about earlier even more so. So again, I hate to be the broken record, them better, and your customers will be happier. And to me, that word of mouth, the happy customer is really the only thing that we can control right now. And all, just be honest with people. I placed an order. I'm in New York. I'm a Knicks fan. I figured they're doing well. I had to buy a T-shirt, so I bought a shirt. It said it was going to be here today. Now I find it's going to be here a week from now. So this is a brand I never bought from before. They disappointed me on the first thing. If they had told me it would take a week, I'd say fine. So I just think it's like, reset your expectations and stop screwing up, if you will. And maybe I could say that more eloquently, but I think that do what you say, follow through, and just be nimble on these channels and see where the opportunities are. But I think you need to be in all of them, and just manage it carefully and judiciously, and follow a strategy that's worked for you. I don't think this is a time to go out and be crazy in terms of spending on acquisition, because a lot of these new customers, may turn out to be fairly fickle. So again, figure out who's the core. How do you serve them better than anyone else? Do what your brand's great at, and don't make it too complicated.
Well, and sorry, I can't resist the little dig at the Knicks of there's certainly, they seem to be disappointing with fulfillment the way they typically disappoint on court, but that's another story for Knicks fans. All right, so Matt, I mean, you're building a new brand, and I mean, how are you feeling? I mean, you have this opportunity to think about the touch points from scratch almost. You have a lot of history to look back on from your time at Lisa. So how are you thinking about this question of leveraging all these touch points, thinking about how you orchestrate messaging across all of them?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's like, I got the primer at Lisa. And in a lot of ways, we left a lot on the table, at least in the early days. We weren't really capitalizing on email or our flows nearly the way that we should. We were late to the game in SMS, and actually push notifications is one thing that we got on pretty early, and we saw success. And so learned quite a lot about just cross-channel automation and when and where to use those levers. Some are better for direct response. Some are better for just building the customer relationship, I think. And now we're transitioning from Lisa, which was a sort of a very pure play performance marketing driven D2C brand, over to the Fascination, which is it's a mind shift for all of us, really, because at this point we're building sort of a media property, right, with audience and content, and that's leading the charge for us. And so I think that from day one, we've thought about building our own audience and capturing it in as many ways as we can right out of the gate, because there's this confluence of circumstances, that you've alluded to, whether it's the pandemic shifting buying behavior, or it's rising CACs and Facebook and Google auctions, or attribution through iOS 14. Like, all of these things are sort of putting a damper on performance marketing and the ability to go and acquire customers. But the one thing that you have ultimate control over is your owned audience. And so, we were keenly aware of that as we went into our early days at the Fascination, and we still, we think about it every day.
You're probably trying out all different kinds of content to see what works and what doesn't, I would guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting, like what's been resonating with different audiences. I think, we're still like very much at the tip of the spear in terms of the direct consumer space. Like, we're talking to a relatively small part of the population. And as we broaden out, we've got to think about that. Like, how do we bring in people that might not have heard of even Allbirds, for instance? How do we market to those people? And how do we create content and direct response advertising that actually speaks to them? And so, we're creating brand stories, rich stories about our brands. We're creating really in-depth product reviews, and we're creating fun content like guides and roundups, right? And all of those resonate differently with different audiences. And so a lot of thought is going into like our content calendar and how we calibrate what pieces we sort of put in front of what audience.
Well, thank you for that. I want to turn to some of the questions from the audience. We had one from Megan Kelly that had a number of upvotes on it. She asked, do any of the panelists have advice on how to leverage marketing content, which you started getting into a little bit, to build loyalty with these newly acquired customers? And content could be books, ebooks, case studies, videos. I don't know. Sherri, I'd like to start with you on this and the kind of content that you find might be effective in building loyalty with these new customers.
Yeah, so we actually have been thinking about that as a way to really expand our storytelling. So I think at Italic, we want to be known for being able to offer you the highest quality goods at the lowest possible prices. So you are saving money. But I think beyond that, people don't really know a lot about the story behind the brand, the products, and how it all comes to be. And so we recently wrote a piece, a blog piece essentially, around why we actually lost money on our candles, which, by the way, is one of our best-selling products. And it was really a story about how, like, the lengths at which like our team goes to develop products, and particularly a product that members had been asking us for. And we wanted to just figure out how to make the best possible candle at the best possible price. And that piece was entirely a story behind the scenes about that whole journey. And it wasn't aimed at selling candles, but rather telling a story about the ethos of the brand and the ethical considerations behind how we develop and curate all of our products in-house. And we found that that was actually one of our most highly engaged stories that we put out there. We were then able also to leverage that into additional marketing content to then acquire more customers through the storytelling. And I think that that really speaks to what Matt was just talking about creating content that's really compelling, that's not necessarily entirely focused around the sale, but rather inviting customers into a conversation or talking about a topic or theme that might be very fascinating or engaging for them in some other facet, and that can represent the brand as a whole, which in my mind is going to create that longer lasting relationship beyond, here's a great product that I would like to buy once or twice. I'd like people to come back, for our transparency and for our dedication to our members.
And Jeff, I'm kind of curious from B&H's perspective. I mean, I'm used to content from someone like B&H on product details or things like demos, people showing videos of them trying the product. So, are you finding that is that still the kind of content that your customers are consuming the most, or are you seeing an appetite for different types of content that may not have may not just be featuring the product and the features or things like that?
So, yeah, I would say the answer is both, but the second part is what's growing. So, looking at Megan's question, for us, the magic medium has been video. And we've always done the product information. Here's a new launch, tell me about it. But we've done a lot more in terms of sharing customer testimonials from sort of an advertising point of view and telling the brand story and what makes us different. And also putting a big effort into education, how to do something, how to proper lighting for a Zoom call or things like that, but at a bit of a more accomplished professional level. So I think what we've found is the more we're putting our time, effort, and investment into educating and helping our customers and our audience evolve their skill set, we believe that's going to help the long-term connection with the brand. So, in Megan's question, for us, it's been about video. Things that have been, articles and written have been less impactful for us. It's really, I guess people have been a lot of time at home. They've enjoyed watching videos, and we've seen that a big uptick there.
Yeah, just to sort of like add on to Megan's question, I think for us at the Fascination, what we're really thinking about right now actually is when we get a new email subscriber, how do we like get them inside into our thought process about why we're even here, why we started this thing, why the Fascination, like why should you care about us, how we evaluate our brands, which we look at the science and the soul of a brand, the quality, technical aspects of a brand, and the founding story and the mission behind it. And then we look at the founder stories in depth, and we highlight those. And so I think before you start selling and pushing products and sales and offers on them, they have to understand why you exist and where you fit in their sort of piece of the pie and their kind of commerce in their mind. And so we want to get that straight from the get-go. We want them to understand how we fit in the mix. And I think that's super important before you really start selling, is to get that sort of buy-in in consumers' minds.
The thing that I'm kind of hearing from all three of you as like a student of, three pretty awesome marketers is like, you have to tell a story, and you have to, like, first and foremost, you just have to know the type of customer that shops with you. Like someone that shops at B&H is like, it's not surprising that they want video. A lot of them are videographers. So like understanding your customer and then telling them a story, and like there's some sort of equation there that if you get it right, you can both like hook a customer and then keep them around for a really long time. But it's different for every brand. But that kind of feels like, just from what you guys are saying, that feels like the equation, or like a version of the equation.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're definitely hearing. Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, I mean, Brandon, I think you're absolutely right. It's like figure out who you are and what you stand for. Sherri talked about it, the everyday store, incredible value. So, and play to your strength, play to what you're good at. And someone put a question, which really, Kathleen put a question about, showing too much love to new customers. I'd say no. Show love to the people who connect with what you're doing, because they're the ones who are going to stick. So for us, it's this technology oriented, extremely talented, anywhere from a professional to an accomplished hobbyist. So focus on them, and then just do what you do well, and the rest will follow. I mean, it's not to oversimplify, but what's your brand? Who do you connect to? Be great at that, and the rest will draw from that, I believe.
So we've got a few other questions that a lot of them are centering around loyalty programs. And by the way, shout out to our YouTube channel. We have a really interesting video on a new approach to loyalty programs and how to implement earn and burn in a different way. But wanted to, that really can kind of get the heart of the matter of having these loyalty programs. They can reward customers. They also help you collect data. But yeah, I'd be interested to hear, there's questions on, kind of, do you have a loyalty program or not? What's working with them? What kind of programs are you using? So maybe each of you could talk about, where are you with loyalty programs? How do they work? What are some of the things that some of the benefits you're getting out of them? Sherri, can we start with you?
Yeah, so we don't currently have an official loyalty program, but it is, a topic that we think about constantly. I think Thank You Thursdays is one example of a perk that we've added for our members, but the long-term goal is actually to offer more and more and more and more perks, right? And to understand like what are the up-leveled experiences or services we could offer to deliver that value, not just to our loyal customers, but also those new customers. And to Kathleen's question also, that's how we're balancing out, showing love to the new customers as well as our existing ones, is we're trying to up-level the experience for both simultaneously. So, whether that's, can we introduce a higher touch, concierge service? Are there other, experiences or add-ons or things that we could ultimately offer to drive that loyalty, whether that's a points reward system or whatnot, really going to our existing members, understanding what do they want, what do they value, and then slowly rolling those out by testing these different perks, if you will. I think the hope is at the end of the day, we'll collect those data points and be able to launch with a more robust offering that, like, whether you want to call it loyalty or not, that will really encourage people to stick around for the long run. So look out for more perks is the other way to put it.
And Matt or Jeff, I'd love to hear your thoughts on loyalty programs. I mean, Matt, you're again building out a new brand. Is this part of the kind of infrastructure of a new brand?
Yeah, it is. It's something that we're already thinking about, honestly. I would have hoped to have had it live already, to be fair, but we're in a really fun and unique situation where we've got some of the top brands in the D2C space at our disposal that we can work with. And it's huge incentives to be able to reward our customers for sharing the Fascination. And in exchange, they get gift cards or product from a selection of their favorite brands, right? And so at its core, that's what we're going to be building, a milestone rewards program where the more you share, the more you earn. And to answer several people's questions, the software that I really like for that is called Kickoff Labs. It's very similar to how like the Hustle and Morning Brew have built their referral flywheels. And then on the more traditional D2C brands, I think it's crucial for building repeat and lifetime value. And as we think about how we evolve the Fascination, our heads are already going in that direction. As we become more sort of commerce centric, the goals for us are really to incentivize sharing. So get more people on the platform and get them signed up into our ecosystem, and then incentivize people to build a basis of points so they can come back and spend them with the top brands in the space. And so I've done this a lot in the past with some of our clients, and my go-to platform there is usually Swell, which is a Yotpo product. Tons of customization. You can reward people for following. You can reward by points or dollars. You can apply it automatically at checkout. So incredibly flexible if you're on the Shopify platform. Highly suggest you check it out.
And Jeff,
sorry, Scott.
Yeah, it was just turning to you. So, but you jumped right in.
Yeah, two things. First of all, our owner walks in my office like every day, and he gives me a banana, and I get a little wisdom along with the banana every day. And when we've talked about loyalty programs in the past, he's adamant that every customer is a platinum customer. You don't know if the guy off the street tomorrow is going to become your biggest customer. So we've avoided loyalty programs and just really tried to treat everyone great, which sounds a little trite, but that's honestly what our organization is focused on. I would say within that, we have done something a couple of years ago. We were faced with the challenge of collecting sales tax, which we never had before outside of our home state. And so we came up with a new credit card with an incredible value prop. And that's almost become like a proxy loyalty program, in that it's attracted a lot of our core customers have gravitated toward it. So we've kind of gotten the benefits in terms of information and things like that from that. But again, I'd almost be concerned about, for us, and again, very different stage of the business than Matt and Sherri, for example. But for us, we've done a pretty decent job trying to treat everyone like they're super extra executive elite platinum, and it's worked for us. So that's kind of where we are on that.
Right, and we have a whole other webinar we could do on wisdom from your banana deliveries for another time.
Believe me, if I could ever get this guy to do videos, I mean, probably one of the best and most amazing retailers I've ever met in my life.
So we're getting a little bit towards the top of the hour here, but there's one area I wanted to make sure we cover, which is customer insights. And we got a little bit of insight from the audience through the polling question, but this seems like such a hot topic. I mean, it's being driven by a number of technology platforms that are helping to identify customer insights and ones that are actionable. But I wanted to ask how you're all, is this a priority? Is the technology now making it something that's more feasible than it was in the past to collect these customer insights? I think there's been a couple of references during the call of, know who your customers are, and, when you want to communicate and when you're thinking about your messaging. So, I maybe I'll start with Matt. You guys, what are you thinking about in terms of customer insights? Is this an area you're focused on? How's the technology supporting it?
Yeah, I mean, first I'll say I think the amount of technology behind consumer insights today is insane. Like anything you need is there, whether it's attribution platforms or CSAT, NPS surveys, or post-purchase surveys, which honestly I love. That's one of my favorite tools. I think the ability to make quantitative decisions and to derive data from what's happening on your site, it's all there, But at the end of the day, like, I still think that there's really no replacement for two things. One is, going with your gut when you're at a crossroads, and B, really talking to customers and hearing firsthand feedback of, how your platform's working, or how they're responding to your creative, or whatever it may be. I think a nice healthy mix of art and science is how I've always thought about it, and it's how we're going to continue to think about it as we build this business.
Sherri or Jeff?
Yeah, so I definitely echo that, and that I think it's a blend of art and science, and there really is no replacement for just talking to your customers and really being thoughtful about what that experience is like on the front lines, engage them in that conversation, ask them the questions that you really want answers to. And if that's, that's through your member services, customer services team, or if that's through, your more traditional surveys, I think we don't want to discard that, very, very human element and touch point. I do think the technology is also, amazing. There's tons of products and platforms out there that you can use. I think on the flip side, though, I think there is a tendency towards data overload. So while we do want to be really data driven and we'll continue to direct the organization in a way in which we're leveraging data to help us make the right decisions, figuring out like what data should you be looking at and how do you want to conduct that analysis is core for us. Otherwise, when you're strapped for resources, you're just overwhelmed by too much data. So going back to those basics, talking to your customers, and then thinking about, what Jeff mentioned earlier, just like do right by your customer. Like, what are the touch points that matter, and focus on those first, and get the easy things right. I mean, I know they're not always so easy and we're in crazy times, but if you do those well, I think that's the ultimate starting point to really derive the most impactful customer insights. And then you can kind of move on from there.
All right, Jeff, any final thoughts on customer insights?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with what Matt and Sherri said. Basically, you need a real barometer of how your customers are feeling, because if you listen to yourself, you think everything's great, and they'll tell it to you how it really is. And I think that's critical.
All right. Well, we are at the end of our time. So thank you all for a great discussion. I think there were some clear themes here around, know who your customers are, message to them appropriately, treat your customer right. I know it sounds kind of, like we should all know that anyway, but I think it's a really good reminder. And authentic storytelling in multiple touch points, I think, is another key takeaway that I gathered from this. So really appreciate you all spending some time sharing your insights with the CommerceNext audience. And just want to give a quick reminder to a couple more things that are coming up. Again, next week, we will be back on Wednesday, March 31st, how to create digital experiences as good as store experiences. Then we have our, again, reminder to check out things on YouTube. And thank you all so much for being with us. So have a great rest of your day, and we will see you next Wednesday.